Oh, hi everybody. I'm Lisa Natoli, and I'm here with my awesome friend Max. Welcome, Max.
Hi. Welcome.
Right. So today we are going to do a talk on prayer from A Course in Miracles and what is prayer. Max and I were talking yesterday, and he really was talking about how a lot of people have similar comments and questions, and I really just thought we should just come on here and, just express our own experience with this. But it was about prayer. It was about having problems and difficulties, and the four different things that quite a lot of people, and myself included for a long time, say or think is I asked, but I'm not getting what I asked for. I did that, but nothing changed. I prayed, but nothing happened. And this one, this one is amazing because it seems so innocent, and everyone does it. Has anyone got any ideas about what I should do? And so we wanted to just come on here and talk about what is prayer, as A Course in Miracles talks about it. And the way Jesus describes it in the Song of Prayer is that it's a way to reach God. So it's a way to move from one state of mind where you have problems and questions and doubts, and you're searching for the solution. And prayer is a way to reach to another state of mind where there's peace and certainty, and what you're asking for is already there. So it really is everything you ask for is given in this moment.
Yes, I think it says in the Course a prayer for forgiveness is the only meaningful prayer. So in the asking, so it's really a prayer of listening. So it's really a prayer of listening for that forgiveness. And the forgiveness is occurring to you to give it away. So in your situation, whatever that situation may be, you perceive an idea or a problem, and you are thinking that you need this situation to change and you need something to shift. And if I ask for it to shift, or if I ask for something specific, then, because I prayed, that must occur. Yet you're always back to the one problem, one solution. It's that what you're asking for, you don't really know your own best interests. So you're back to the lessons of the Course, which are, if you're asking and then listening, then you'll be directed to, I'm never upset for the reason I think, or, allowing it in that way to unfold for you, rather than being specific to a specific situation, and this must be a particular way, or, I need a miracle and I need the miracle to look like this. And I think that's where the trap is when you ask and you're not given to, rather than asking and listening and allowing yourself to give to the situation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's really what it is. The Course says that prayer is a stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving. It should not be confused with supplication of any kind, because it is a way of remembering your holiness. We've got a big thunderstorm here. Can you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
It says, I love this. It says, prayer is an offering, a giving up of yourself to be at one with love. There is nothing to ask because there is nothing left to want. Somebody recently just reminded me, she took the 40-day program, and in that I talk about wanting my eyesight and my hearing to be healed. Just that I started losing my hearing in the 3rd grade, and just I've, had blurry vision almost my whole life. And I made a decision at some point that I wasn't going to ask for that anymore. Because for 20 or 30 or 40 years even, I just kept waiting for a miracle, as if the miracle was going to be that the physical condition was changed. And I just decided I was going to just live my life. I wasn't going to try to fix or change anything anymore. And it was amazing because I stopped thinking about it. I stopped praying for God to help me. I stopped looking at maybe what I was doing wrong. And what she said to me was, she said, when I read your story, I realized that what was healed was your suffering. And I thought, oh my God, that's amazing, because that's what it was. I didn't need a healing from my eyes and my ears. I needed a healing from the suffering I felt about what I thought I needed. And ever since then, I've not even paid attention to it. I just put the glasses on and I'm fine with it. And it's just like, oh, I had everything I wanted already, and I'm waiting for something to be different.
And I think that's where you find, it's the case that it's always your thoughts that are making you suffer in the situation. So the problem is about your thoughts, not about the situation. As soon as you recognize that in each situation, then you actually do give it the space to be what it is. Once you allow it to the space to be what it is, then it's no longer a problem. And then everything is a miracle. The miracle is occurring all the time. There's no gap between asking and being given, and accept your idea that there is a gap. So you ask and you think, well, this must change. I can't see, or I don't like this person, what this person is doing, so it must change. And I've asked. Yet the thing that the thing that's making you suffer is the idea that you don't like it. And it's a thought, and it's a thought that's making you suffer, because obviously for somebody else, that idea of that person is perfectly fine. So you allow yourself the space for a listening to occur that allows everything to be exactly as it is, and nothing actually really needs to change. And of course, when you don't need anything to change, what happens? Usually things just change, because things change anyway, because that's just the nature of where we are. We find that change occurring. So, you struggle with the idea of praying and trying to have the thing be different. Yet, if it's just left of its own accord in that space, then it will change and does change.
So what would you say to these first three? I asked, but I'm not getting what I asked for. I did that, but nothing changed. So there's all these ideas in the Course in Miracles of practices and principles and exercises. So people will say, well, I did that, and nothing changed. In fact, I'm worse off than before. And the third one is, I prayed, but nothing happened.
Yeah, you prayed and nothing happened, and nothing did happen, because there's nothing happening really. Because you're looking through your body's eyes in an idea. I prayed, but nothing happened. That person is still here. They're still, they're still cutting in on me on the road. They're still, affecting my space. The Course talks about the idea that you ask and it's given to you in the moment that you ask for it. And now it's about accepting that that's occurred, even though you're only seeing the past, you're only seeing a residual idea of what's occurring. There's a faith and a trust that comes in with the idea that yes, it has already occurred. Yes, I've asked, and I've asked once, and I've opened myself up to the idea, and I've listened for the answer, and the answer has come. And even though I don't see it, I have a faith and trust that that's what's occurring. And of course, in my own experience, it does change without me even noticing it, in a sense, because when you turn your will and your life over to God, when you allow it to be exactly as it is, then it does start to flow and change and move in a different direction. And it's the idea that your problem that you were so fixed on for that moment has actually just dissipated, and now you're free of that. Now, if you choose to, you can pick up another problem, and ruminate over that, and then say, well, this is not changing. This is not, I've asked and nothing has happened. Yet in that moment, it actually has shifted. And if you allow yourself the space to see it, then eventually it does come to that, and it's not even an idea of future, but you sit here in this moment, like you said about your eyesight and your hearing. I mean, when was that you said, I had a problem with my eyesight and my hearing? When was that moment? So here you are now without that problem. And you don't know when it changed. You could, name a date, but when was that? Yet you understand that it changes. And so there is a consistency and a faith that comes with asking and following the instructions to listen.
I love that. And it really is just a shift in your focus. Like the focus has been on the problem or on the thing that's disturbing you and trying to make it change. And you just have to shift your focus to gratitude, to joy, to appreciation, like you said, forgiveness. Somebody in our Friday Course in Miracles group, she told this awesome story last week. She's been dealing with medical companies for these bills that she owes, and she's been trying to work with them to get them to cut the payments in half or whatever. And in the class last week, we said, what if you stopped trying to fix your problems and you just dedicated your day to God, to serving God, and to being a light in the world? And she just, I don't know, she said that I'm just going to do that as an experiment. And so she would wake up in the morning and she would say, God, here I am. And she decided she was not going to think about those medical bills anymore. And she said she'd been thinking about those bills every single day. But thinking about them doesn't make them go away. She tried making the phone calls and whatever. So she just said, I just shifted my focus to just say, God, what do you want me to do today? That I'm your messenger, and that I'm just going to bring your love and peace and joy to all the spaces that I go and all the people that I meet. And she said that at the end of the day, the medical company that she's been having the most difficulty with called her and said to her, we've decided we want to wipe the slate clean, and you have no debt anymore. Have a good day. And but the thing is like you can't bargain with these laws. Like you can't think, okay, well, I'll serve God so that my bills get paid. You literally have to just shift the focus and say, you know what, I'm not going to focus anymore. I'm going to pay the bills. I'm going to deal with whatever. I don't need God to give me something. That I'm here just to serve God. And then everything you do need and want comes to you with no effort.
Yeah, and I think hearing that story, you can't now take that story and say, well, this woman had all her bills paid, so now I'm going to pray. And then, but that's not happening for me.
It doesn't work that way.
See, it's still back to the one problem, one solution. And if you turn your will and life over to God, if you allow the recognition that you only have one problem, and that's the idea of separation, and that problem has already been solved, then whether the medical bill is still there or not is no longer your concern, because you will look at it in a totally different way. And in that case, it disappeared. In other cases, it will just be handled in the way, whichever way it is handled, whether it's paid or, but it's no longer becomes your driving force to live. It's no longer driving you. So you're out of that loop, and you're allowing it to be exactly what it is, whether it's, a cancer or a medical bill or, anything small or whatever you think is large. Everything is exactly the same, and if you approach everything from exactly the same place, then it no longer appears as a problem. It just appears as a situation. Well, here we are. But also, it is true that as that flows into a habit and a practice, then it does start to flow, and it flows downstream, and your life just seems to the road is made straight. and you just seem to flow through it without without always being in conflict, without always having to pray for something to occur because something is not happening. Because we don't really know beyond that, other than our thoughts cause us suffering. It's not the thing itself. And so, the next idea of, well, what is somebody else doing about that situation? Or, has anybody got any ideas about how to, fix this situation? Then, I was involved in a conversation where that occurs, and, people offer up what Heidegger called handy information. This idea that you can garner information and utilize it in a way that will solve a particular scenario, and that may or may not work, and then you try to apply it to the next scenario, and of course that doesn't work. So now you're left with the idea of trying to find another bit of handy information which will be able to be applied to this situation. If you can see that every situation is exactly the same, that it's a call for you to love, not out there, it's not outside of your own thinking, it's actually occurring in your own mind, then you can apply the one problem, one solution to everything. And from there, it really will flow, because you'll be only looking at the prayer for forgiveness, and the prayer for forgiveness is a prayer of forgiving yourself. And when you recognize that there is a forgiving of yourself, then you're willing to give, because you're only giving to yourself in that situation. And that frees it up.
Yeah, it does. And you just gave the perfect solution to the question that a lot of people have. Has anyone got any ideas about what I should do? You said just love. Like, that really is the only thing you can do. And one of the things that I really love, just my own experience over the years, is when I think about that I have a problem, the best thing I can do is be still. Like, give it 24 hours before you go trying to find a solution outside of yourself, and go to God. Like, just be still and be quiet and just say, okay, God, I need your help with this one. And then don't try to fix it. I love that. One of my favorite things that I heard from you, Max, was this idea that whatever happens, I don't mind. That whatever happens, I don't mind. And that frees me up now from having a preference about how I think things should go. Because it's all just happening. Everything's just happening, and I'm just being a witness to it and just participating in it joyfully. And it's kind of shocking when I look at like how much I wanted everything to change and go my way. And I would pray for these things. I wanted a better house. I wanted a different appearance. I wanted more money. I wanted different relationships. I wanted people to be different than everything. I wanted everything to be different, and I prayed about it. Show me, God, what to do so that my life will change. And now what I do is I thank God that my life is exactly the way that it is, that nothing needs to change. I'm just so grateful. And like you said at the beginning of this call, then everything does change.
Yeah, everything does change, and everything that's shown to you in that idea of just thanking God, like the idea of just being grateful, being thankful. And there is a way of seeing that in the moment, immediately. It's right there, right in this moment. This is where it is. This is where, when you ask and you say thank you, then the experience is there, and that's when it's changed. It's because where is it now? Where is the problem now? Right in this moment. Where does it actually exist? So when you question where it actually exists, you will come to an answer, and for me, the answer is, well, it doesn't actually exist anywhere that I can find it, that I can put my hands on it. And just that is a revelation in itself. And that's a thank you. That's gratitude. That's, you know, just opening it up to wow, this is just a whole brand new experience of the present moment, where everything is exactly as it needs to be. And it allows you to become second rather than first, where I have to have, you know, the money, and I have to have the house, and I've got to have the, you know, this, and I've got to have this situation figured out for me because it's not working. It's where you step back and become second and say, well, whatever happens, I don't mind. And always from there, everything just flows, and it flows along, because whatever happens, I don't mind. You know, there it is.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful,
it's so
beautiful.
To me too, like to think about. I didn't realize how it worked before, but now I do, because before I thought I was praying for something, and I thought that maybe there should be angels that appear, or my physical life would start to change. But what I started to notice when I made this commitment to just listen, like when I had a request of some kind or a difficulty, I just suddenly had the practice to be still first. Because what the Course in Miracles says is that the voice for God is speaking to you, but you're so busy with your question and trying to get the situation to change that you're not actually listening. So the voice will actually start speaking to you, either in a thought or a feeling, or sometimes it will come in a phone call or an email. But the solution will come, because sometimes you will have to take a step. Like it will require you to move in some kind of a different direction. And to me, like, that's the excitement of just saying, okay, I don't have to wait for something to fall from the sky. It's all here for me now. I just have to receive it.
Yes, I think it's in the simplicity of it, where it really, really, really is very, very simple. And we make it a very complex idea, and we make it into a whole bunch of different ways of approaching it. And really, it's just in the simplicity of just being kind to yourself, you know, being grateful for yourself, being grateful for who you are, because the prayer, the meaningful prayer of forgiveness, is the idea of forgiving yourself for who you are, just you, just, you know, myself as I've constructed myself, you know, because this is it. This is who I am in this moment. And before, there's something wrong with that, because everything is happening to me, and, you know, there's all these problems coming at me, and it's all somebody else's fault, or it's partly my fault and it's partly their fault. You know, but ultimately, you're just looking at the idea of forgiving yourself for being who you are. When you forgive yourself for being who you are, then you have a completely clean slate where anything can occur. And, you know, mistakes are made, and then you have a completely clean slate where anything can occur, and nothing actually is going wrong. There may be mistakes, but then again, the next moment you have a completely clean slate. So, and as you say, you know, you put one foot in front of the other, and then you find yourself doing things, you know, for your circumstances to change or not. But either way, it's just you being you without you interfering with you. You know, like you look, I was watching some kangaroos the other day, you know, and they're coming up to the window, and, you know, they just are doing what they do. They eat a little bit of grass, you know, they look around to see if they need to run, or they can stay, you know, like, are we going to attack them? No, we're not. Okay, we'll just eat the grass. And, you know, and that's it. That is the extent of them being themselves in that space. There's nothing to add to them, and there's nothing to take away. And there's nothing to add to you, and there's nothing to take away. You're perfect exactly as you are in this moment, without needing anything to be added or anything to be different. And that's the answer to your prayer, really and truly. The answer to your prayer is that you are who you are, and it is perfectly okay.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Because that's just been the best gift for me, is just to see I'm only here for today. Like how much of my prayers were to change something from the past or the future. And, this part here, it just says prayer is a way offered by the Holy Spirit to reach God. It cannot succeed until you realize that it asks for nothing. So it says, ask rather to receive what is already given, to accept what is already there. You have been told to ask the Holy Spirit for the answer to any specific problem, and that you will receive a specific answer if such is your need. So here it is. It says, the secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. To ask for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and then to forgive it. Also, in the same way, in prayer, you overlook your specific needs as you see them and let them go into God's hands. There they become your gifts to Him, for they tell Him that you would have no gods before Him, no love but His. What could His answer be but your remembrance of Him? I love it.
Yeah, you're always looking at the idea that, even at the beginning of this, you're being drawn back into your world of complexity. And the solution is always very, very simple. And then you're drawn into complexity. And then the solution is always very, very simple. So each time you come back to that space is a reinforcement and an expanding of that idea, really. And until you find yourself, just being in that experience and living your life in that experience. And the complexity, gets smaller and smaller. And the expansion of yourself gets larger and larger in the idea that you can just be who you are. And there's no barrier to that being who you are. There is no wall put in front of you. You've walked around it. You've come above the battleground. You're doing the simple things in a much more flowing way. We were talking earlier about driving and, the idea of how, everybody wants to get in on you, cut each other off. And when you, even in those little things, when you allow yourself to be second, then everything flows. Then, the traffic of your life just flows through it when you allow yourself to be, come on in. Yeah, come on, in you come, next, come. And everything just flows from that. Right. And then, and the more you give, the more you receive. And this is just basic. I mean, nobody, everybody talks about that. But this is actually coming from me. When I give, I automatically receive. So when you practice it, it's actually an occurrence. So we talk about it, but there it is. It's in the practice, and it's in the moment that somebody puts their blinker on and wants to come in, that you pull back and say, come on. And that's it. And that's the total of forgiveness. And in that moment, and the Course talks about that in the teacher's manual, where it talks about, just a smile in the elevator, just two friends walking home, because it's in those little instances where you give of yourself that allows for that expansion. The opposite of that is, somebody puts their blinker on and you don't let them in, and the next thing you know, you have a war in Israel and Palestine. I mean, that's how it works, because this is a conflict, this is a turmoil that's going on inside you, and you're suffering from the way that you think. And as soon as you allow yourself to recognize that and just observe those thoughts, allow them to be there, you're not guilty of them, they are just there. And as soon as you recognize that, then you're free of them, and your thoughts just come and go, and here comes another one, and you can just observe it and let it be there. And that's the forgiveness of yourself, where you're not tied to the thinking.
I love that. And that's really where you begin to see, like, the Course moves from concepts to practice. Like this idea that there's nothing outside of me. And I remember when I came to that place when I really started to say, is that true? Like, what if that's true? And suddenly I'm waiting for something to happen in my life that I'm praying for that I think God's going to give me. And I've not recognized the miracle that I'm looking at my own thought reflections in every single moment of all
Mm.
these people and places and things that are happening to me. And I'm missing them all because my focus is on the problem.
Mm.
And I just made this decision. I'm not going to think about my problems. I don't have any anymore.
Yeah. Mm. That's it. You make a decision.
That's it. You make a
Mm.
decision.
Mm.
So what would you say to somebody who's listening to this, who's saying, okay, well then what do I do? I mean, I know we've said what to do, but
Mm.
somebody's got what they think is a real problem. They can't pay their rent, they have no money,
Mm.
they have cancer. What would be
Mm.
the one thing you would say to them?
I don't have an answer to any of those problems. I don't have any answer for them that will make it okay. I have no words that will make it okay.
Mhm.
You know, if everything that we said, if any of it is of any value, then it's just practice. It's practice. It's just practice. You know.
That's it. That's when it works. Well, I love you. I love you
I love
listening. I love you, Max.
I love you. Peace.
Peace. See you out there.
See ya.